In this video, I want to go over some things that happened in the background of entrepreneurship. Whether it's more spiritual or less spiritual or whatever you want to call it, I think there's something deep that goes on when you make the decision and you take the actions to move from an employee to an entrepreneur. And that's what I want to go over today. I think there's a lot of kind of basic and shallow ideas of what entrepreneurship is and what working for yourself is. But I think that there's some very deep truths in it. And I think that if you spend the time to actually see it for what it is and kind of have a little bit of a deep dive into it, you'll see that this whole game is really like a character study. It's really a character development process, right? Hormozi has a saying that the business works on you as you work on it. And that is definitely true. I think there's so many little things that you have to learn as an individual in order to get yourself to a place where you're building a thriving business. And if you don't, you will always see the outcomes of that within your business. So it's a very good mirror. It's a very good self-test. And there's other things in life that you can do for that sort of thing, like relationships or, even personal kind of adventures. But business and entrepreneurship is a unique one because it's tied to our fundamental resource of life, which is money. And a lot of people have mixed up ideas about money and a lot of weird relationships to the process of getting money, discussing money, having a team with money, etc., etc. So what I want to do today is kind of have this little preliminary conversation. This is not the most planned out thing. I threw together some slides, but I want to kind of freestyle a couple stories here to show you exactly what I mean in my specific examples, okay? These might be different from some other people a little further along or in different industries, but if you're kind of in your first couple of years or so, or you've been thinking about doing something, then these are some things that I'll tell anyone in that position that can help them out a little bit more. This is what I would tell myself a couple of years back. This is what I would tell a younger brother of mine or younger cousin of mine that wants to do something like this, but they've maybe taken like the first one step, but not the second step, and so on and so forth. So let's dive in. Let's talk about dreams, decimals, and dark times, and then get into some real examples and some real lessons. So the biggest thing that people need to understand is that dreams are kind of esoteric and vague a lot of times. And when we think about where our dreams come from, you have to be honest with yourself and understand that they come from, parents in the beginning, and then culture in the beginning, and then society, and then maybe your college, and then maybe some kind of culture that you found yourself into, whether it's like a specific club or a group or political ideology or a business with a certain mission and stuff like that. We're always being influenced, especially in our younger years, to figure out what is our dream. And some people, unfortunately, will try to exploit you into their dream, right? If you ever heard the saying that, an entrepreneur is a person that hired people to build his dream, or, work for your own dream or work for someone else's, that is kind of true. Even if you're a freelancer, even if you're a solopreneur, even if you're something like that, then you're still taking on a lot of changes, right? You don't have to be this big bad guy with fucking 50 people or VC startup money and stuff like that to experience these things. Whether it's on a small scale, on a bigger scale, doesn't really matter because it's fundamentally the same things. It's just we're more funding and more bodies. So throughout the process of understanding your dreams, right, a lot of the times they come up in this sort of kind of subconscious way. You don't even know exactly why you have the dreams that you do. You're just an ambitious individual and you haven't really put thought into it. It's just this mound of clay, but you haven't sculpted it. So the decide and the define part of this are really important, because if you don't have a definition of what success looks like, if you don't have a decision being made on certain things like industries, what you will and won't work for, what you do and don't value, etc., you're just going to be open to exploitation. You're going to have so much ambition. You're going to have so much desire to succeed. You're going to have so much desire to prove yourself to yourself, and then also other people that may have kind of given you their dreams as your dreams, that you'll take anything that's handed out to you. And I just don't think that that's the right way to do it, because fundamentally, if you do that, you're going to grow resentful of that individual because it's not exactly your dream. What you're doing is you're working for that person or working with that person in belief that it will lead to your dream, but that is something that you can squeeze and get the juice out of, but eventually you have to realize that it's not the final truth. It's not the final dream of yours. So I'm not against, working for people for a period of time, doing an apprenticeship, doing an internship, or doing things like that. But it should always be clear what you're getting out of it. And if that's experience, that's experience. If it's exposure, it's exposure. But sometimes a lot of people can use those terms, experience and exposure, as basically tools of manipulation to get you to work for their dream. Okay. And sometimes they don't even know they're doing it. Sometimes they're just, kind of desperate in their own ways, and they've thought that this is the way to go about it, but it's just not. Okay. So once you go about the process of defining and deciding your dreams, you're going to have a lot more conviction. You're going to have a lot more boundaries. You're going to have a lot more self-respect, and you're going to be able to really understand when opportunities come to you, or when you go and assess opportunities, which ones make sense. You probably hear it all the time, this idea of having an abundance mentality. But I think that the more that you get skilled, the more that the abundance mentality becomes an abundance reality. Okay, it's one thing to play pretend and try to manifest these things and coming into your life. And it is good to have a good optimistic perspective, but that alone is not going to be what actually gets you appointments on the calendar, or actually gets you people offering you jobs or anything like that. Right? It's sending out proposals, it's sending out job applications, it's sending out invitations, et cetera, that actually gets the ball rolling, actually makes stuff happen. So you want to get to a place where you are defined on what you will and will not accept, and that is going to come from defining and understanding your actual dream. And this can get pretty deep, right? This can be as far as like a mission of the work, but I think it needs to expand a little further than that, right? Your mission of your life, your legacy of your life, whether that becomes family, whether that becomes family and career, whether that becomes a mix of family, career, and also a enlarged community after that. I think you need to try to align as much as you can with that so that you can sleep at night, basically. I think a lot of this stuff just comes down to, can you sleep at night? Can you look at yourself in the mirror and be proud? Can you look back at your life and say, job well done? And if the stuff that you do is leading towards that direction, then good. Use that as your barometer. But the fact of the matter is that it's up to you to decide and define on your dreams. So take some moments, take some time, open up a Google Doc, open up a Notion document, and see if you can actually literally line up all the things that you need. Literally type everything out that you need for your life to feel successful, okay? And I mean down to the detail, down to the specific watch you're wearing, down to the specific place you're having dinner at, down to the specific city you want to live in, down to the specific people you want to be around, etc., etc. And of course, reality is always going to come crashing down, and you're going to have to, realize that your dreams are these concepts and ideas, and people are going to fit into them, or going to kind of like walk into them, and you'll have to ask yourself, is this close enough for me to take the chance and opportunity to go and explore this? Right? So don't get so rigid on your dreams that, this is the type of girl that I want. She has to have blonde hair, blue eyes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And if she doesn't meet those things, then it's all crap. That's not exactly what you want to do, but you want to have a good notion, a good idea, a good understanding of that. And if the person seems like they're there, then go ahead and explore. But don't forget your own definition. Don't forget your own decision-making factors. And from that point forward, then move forward correctly. Right? Have the strength of will, have the strength of character to be able to cut it off if it doesn't fit. Even if it sounds good, even if people are telling you you're crazy, people are saying this is an opportunity, this is a once in a lifetime, you should be thankful for this and all that stuff. I really, really would encourage you to take those moments in silence, take those moments to yourself, to sit, lay it all out to yourself, speak it out into the room that you're in. If you're that type of person, if you're a verbal person, or if you write things down, do that. Or if you draw things out. But whatever you need to do to kind of just sit with the idea, sit with the reality, sit with what's in front of you, and let an answer come to you of, is this the right thing to do? Is this going forward in my direction? Not right or wrong by other people's standards, not right or wrong necessarily by morals, but right and wrong by what you feel your dream is inside. If you do that, then that's the best you can get. Right? I think that a lot of people want to over-rely on external factors to validate where they're going in life and what they're doing. And I've been guilty of that myself. I've been huge on external validation and huge on just other people validating my existence, to be honest with you. I had low self-esteem for a long time. I had low confidence for a long time. I had this kind of like puppy dog attitude to the world of, help me, show me, lead me the way, and I'll go. And eventually I realized that, a part of this whole entrepreneurial thing is realizing that you have to decide your own truth, and you have to decide your own compass, if you will. I don't like the phrase decide your own truth. I don't mean it like, you decide what truth is. I mean, you have to accept the truth that you have to decide your own life, and you have to understand that every moment going forward is like the newest moment we've ever experienced. Okay? What I mean by that is that your parents have not lived in this year. Your children will not live in this year. Your people around you will not live with your experiences. whether that's the micro or the macro, whether that's your race, culture, identity, gender, whatever, or that's specifically like the job that you had, the school that you went to, the person you sat next to, the conversations you had. People do not have exactly what you have, and only you have what you have. And so only you can really feel that compass of what feels right and what feels true to you. Don't disregard truth. Don't disregard right in like a moral sense. Use those things to kind of guide you. But ultimately, if something feels good for you, if something feels correct for you, and it's like pushing the boundaries of other things, you really should spend the time to explore that and to try to be aligned with your soul, if you want to call it that. I think your soul is the ultimate decision-making factor. And if you do that, then you will live a lot happier, a lot more aligned, a lot more true. And also, people will smell it off you. People will feel it off you, and they'll want to be a part of it. And they'll know that that's how it's kind of supposed to be. And I don't know if you've ever heard this, if it's starting to get kind of weird, but you can kind of tell when someone is like authentic and genuine and real and trying their best and being honest and giving something an actual good effort. And if you come along people like that, you should bring them into your crew. And if you are one of these people and you operate long enough, you will attract these people into your crew. So that's my best bet, or that's my best piece of advice on that one. Second concept is decimals. And this one's a bit lighter. This one's a bit more practical because, everyone starts off with that first dollar in the entrepreneurial journey, right? My first dollar online. That's the one that I can remember. I don't know if I've ever like sold something at a garage sale or something like that, but my first dollar online for my all intents and purposes start of my entrepreneurial journey was selling a logo to a music producer for like $60. And then it grew from there. My first $60 turned into another $100 and then 400 or something like that. Going from $0 in business to $1 in business is like going from not having a driver's license to having a car and a full gas tank. It is really, really a fundamental change. It is a huge, huge change because you go through the entire process and now you're in the driver's seat, right? You're figuratively in the driver's seat and you have that tank of gas because now it's up to you. Now you have the ability to drive, so now it's about where you're going to drive. And getting that first dollar is the most important thing to do that. So do something, even if it's not your favorite thing, just do something and then move from there. I'd recommend that you try something that is as simple as possible to you, but is still useful to another person. Maybe they just don't want to do it. Maybe they just don't, want to learn that YouTube video or something like that. And it can be something simple. It can be in person. You can go and cut grass for $1. You can go and do whatever you need to do on a garage sale for $1. I don't care. Just go do something. If you want to be in the digital space and the software space and stuff like that, you're probably thinking bigger picture. So I would implore you to go and do something digital. But if you just need to get that first dollar, get the first dollar, man. It is literally like your driver's license of business, getting that first dollar. So go ahead and do that and understand that that is a phenomenal achievement. That is a huge, huge decimal point, if you will. That is a huge, huge achievement, and it is definitely going to unlock a lot of things for you. The second thing is just to go from there to the next point. And from there to the next point is pretty good. It's when you start to have a little bit more consistency. You have to have that second, that third, that fourth person and client and customer. And then that stage to the next one is where a lot of things really start to come up. A lot of things that we were talking about earlier where your character is showing in entrepreneurship really starts to come up when you try to go from that $100 to that $10,000 mark. Because saying, 100, you kind of naturally want to say $100, right? You don't say 10,000 bucks. You say $100 and it feels like, okay, for some stuff that's ridiculous, but for some stuff that's totally normal. But $10,000 sounds like an entire paragraph. You know what I mean? It's not just like those words, it's a paragraph. It's saying something. It feels like a way more. It's got way more weight to it. And I remember when I was first starting off, and I sold my own stuff, I was selling it for like, $60 in the beginning, then a couple $100, and I sold my own first, multi-thousand-dollar tool within the year. But when I really stepped up is when I started to sell for other people, and I started to sell things for like $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000. And to me, like I had never grown my reputation or grown my product to be worth that level. So I couldn't even like practice saying that stuff. But then I was plugged into these companies that had been doing that like it was nothing. I've been doing that like it was cake. And they kind of taught me that it really is cake. It's just formatting the thing that you're selling. It's formatting the thing that you're doing in a little bit of a different way. It's structuring things in a little bit of a different way. And it's just moving more towards the value that they've learned that needs to be delivered off of the repetition of having interactions with clients. And that's the only thing that you're missing. It's just that repetition with clients, and then that informing what you're offering and how you're structuring your offer, right? So that is like a huge, huge, huge hill to climb, is to go from $100 to $10,000 as far as like an individual offer. It doesn't have to be those numbers, but like the general concept, right? You could sell something for $400 and then sell it for $6,000, but that jump right there, going from the hundreds to the thousands, the multiple hundreds to the multiple thousands, is huge and super, super important. I think this is the foundation, and this is really going to reveal all the things that you need to work on if you want to move into the higher levels of the 1.5 M's and stuff like that, right? I always joke with myself and with other people that as soon as you have a decimal point, as soon as you're talking in decimals, you're talking serious. And I want to get to that point. I'm not at that point now, but I want to get to the point where we're talking about 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, 1.5 million, right? And that's like the goal, I think, for a lot of people that have decided to do entrepreneurship. But, you know, if you take away the point, the 5, and the M, you still end up with that 1. And so it starts with the 1, it goes to 100s, it goes to the thousands, and then it goes to the millions. And along the way, there's a lot of stuff to learn, there's a lot of stuff to do. But I think fundamentally, as long as you just go through it and repeat to yourself that this is what you've decided to do, this is what you've defined already, this is what you've decided already, then all those lessons that go from the hundreds to the thousands, painful as they may be, confusing as they may be, difficult as they may be, are going to be worth it. And last but not least, speaking on dark times, I will be honest with you guys and say that sometimes life will come and throw you every single thing that you thought would never happen, and it's probably some of the worst stuff that you could think of, whether that's personal betrayals, business betrayals, breakups, physical things going wrong, medical things going wrong. And for some reason, it just seems like the people that have decided to take these bigger journeys are tested with difficult, dark times. And not everyone's is going to be the same, right? Some people might struggle more with the medical stuff. Some people might struggle with more legal stuff. Some people might have more, you know, here's my problem in my business. Some people might, here's my problem at home, et cetera, et cetera. But I fundamentally think that anyone that has made this decision to move into the entrepreneurial path, which is another way to say that you've moved into greater responsibility for your own life and future, will face a heap of dark times. And you need to manage it. You need to get through it. You need to live through it, and you need to come out the other side better. And I know a lot of times it just fucking sucks to be in it, right? It just fucking sucks to watch things kind of drift away that you thought were going to be with you for a long time, whether that's a mission or a project or a person. And it is so, so heartbreaking to go through this stuff. But I think that if you are strong enough to stick through it, to believe in the perspective that there is a lesson of gold here, that there's something underneath it all, that this is making you stronger, this is a crucible of transformation, then you will come out the other side unbelievably better than you thought you could. And those things, those dark times, those dark things are going to be showing in your character. They're going to be showing in your pupils, and people will be able to feel that as well. We talked about being able to feel some stuff on people earlier, and this is one of those things as well. When you've been through stuff and you've survived stuff and you've grown through that stuff, people will know. People will know that there's things that they just cannot get away with. They cannot lie about their own stuff. They cannot push you around. They cannot step on your boundaries. And you will be there enforcing your own stuff because you know that things were a lot worse before. Things could get a lot worse again. And you know that you've learned the lessons to be where you are now, to be better and to be sharper and to be stronger. And so if you're going through dark times right now, understand that it is a part of the process. As weird as it is, for some reason, sometimes you can be doing well in business and things that are just not your fault can happen in life, and they can put you in this dark era. Or you maybe purposely did it yourself and you burned the boats and you're in that grind zone. That works as well, right? But nonetheless, whoever you are, whatever you're doing, whether it's a small solopreneur, a big enterprise level thing, dark times will come to the people that take chances, to the people that follow that intuition, to the people that follow that soul. And it's totally, totally normal. It's totally, totally expected. The only thing that might not be expected is how hard it can get, how dark it can get. But just keep going. Remind yourself that this is a part of the process. Remind yourself that this is what you decided on, right? And if you can keep that in mind, that you decided on this, right? Not necessarily that you like brought this on to yourself, not necessarily that you caused these things to happen, right? Some things yes, but some things no. But just the fact that you made the decision that you're going to endure, just the fact that you made the decision that you're going to endure, and maybe you have a line in the sand that says you're not going back to a job. Maybe you have a line in the sand that says you're not going to, take a piece of work under a certain dollar amount. Whatever line in the sand that you made for yourself, you know what's right. You made that decision, and with that decision comes reality, comes consequences, comes some stuff that in some way or another you kind of asked for. In some way or another, you said you'd be prepared enough to endure that test. So you're being tested, and you're doing that now. So pass the damn test and do what you need to do to get through those dark times. Okay? So, small conversation about entrepreneurship in general. We're going to get back to some more technical stuff in this channel, and we'd really like to hear your guys' thoughts on anything, any stories and stuff like that. These ideas are always displayed a bit more easily through stories and all that. I don't want to say any particular names or anything like that. I try to give you guys the best idea of some stuff that's been going on. But just know that if you're going through anything in business, that a lot of times that kind of is the main idea, right? Sometimes it's about profit. Sometimes it's about, revenue and structures and leases and agreements and proposals and stuff. But sometimes it's about your character. Sometimes it's about how do you need to develop in order to better handle what's in front of you. And if that's what's going on right now, then, hopefully this was helpful. Hopefully this can share with you a little bit more light to show you that, for one, you're not alone, and for two, that there is a path forward.